Greetings, greetings, greetings. You are now tuned into the Vault. Trust Christian own nothing, control everything. Just want to thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the Vault, episode 473, Private Side Lifestyle. Just want to say we thank you for tuning in live, listening to replay. If you listen to this in the replay, you want to start listening live when we go live, feel free to hit the notification button twice so you can actually get the notifications of when we pop up live, and as well get this subscriber button so you can actually, get this bookmarked and actually go back and listen to previous episodes. So always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listens in the replay. This is the Vault episode 473, Private Side Lifestyle. And so this was actually inspired basically even off of a conversation that we had here very recently. We really haven't done an episode possibly about just the full detail of it, but we're going to go ahead and talk about it on this episode because, talking to someone yesterday, it even made us want to say, well, okay, how can you be private and not be wealthy? They're synonymous. The public is called general welfare. That's the public. It has become because of 1933 or 1913 when the Great Depression had happened. When there's been, we're not going to say one thing happened because the system that's been in place has been in place for over 100 years. Capitalism, free market capitalism, has been in place for over 100, 200 years. It stood a test of time already. There are systems that have been around for less time and have failed. So when we talk about the free market, there is a public and a private to the free market. And that's what we're here to talk about is there is a private to the free market. There is a market operating in the private sector. There is no, oh, I'm going to go on the private and not do anything. I'm going to use my birth certificate as a discharge mechanism or something of the nature. And it's just, it's wild to hear these type of thought processes. Oh, I'm going to go into the private and now I'm not going to have to still be a deal maker, deal shaker. You do have to be a capital raiser. You don't think that you have to do that in the private sector. How would you not? You're doing it in the public. Aren't you generating wealth in the public? Yeah, it's called you're acquiring assets in the public. Well, what are you doing in the private? You're managing and growing assets in the private. Appreciate New York for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate New York for tuning in live, listen, replay. So, we're having these conversations, and for years now, people say, oh, I'm going to go into the private. And what are you going to do? You think you're going to come into the private and do nothing? No one comes into the private and does nothing. Oh, I'm trying to figure out how to discharge with my birth certificate. My birth certificate is worth gold. It got a QSIP number on it. And they don't even understand that we interview and deal with securities lawyers. Oh no, well I don't want to. I don't never talk to them. Where do you find them at? At the high net worth investor conferences that cost $2,000, that cost $3,000 a trip, that cost $5,000 possibly a trip. Not a lot, but enough to keep out the phonies from the fakes and the real. Then you got people saying, oh, I got into the conference for free. Well, are you doing deals? Oh, man, I want to go into the private. I want to know how to build credit on the trust. Let's go there. I got to know how to build credit on the private. You got to know how to build credit on the private. Credit's in the public. Private is equity. That's why they call it what? Private equity. The private family banking that you're supposed to be practicing. Oh, can there be enough? Can there be too many private family banks? You're already a private family bank. It's just, are you in the correct structures? When I go into private family banking, how's that worse than the position you're currently in? You're insuring the money. Oh, and inflation, inflation, inflation. That's the only word that's been in the universe, the same word other than the pandemic and COVID. It's inflation. Yeah. And now where are we? Oh, wow. Recession, recession, recession. Maybe people do need a recess. You need to take a little outside break. Get outside. The private side lifestyle. Some say, oh, they eat at different restaurants. That's true. They're not in the public. We're going to go ahead and tell you all, for all you all that are in the public, that say you want to be private. At this point, they got facial recognition. These companies have been sued for taking the data without you even giving them permission, quote unquote. Oh, well, you take a picture, it was of you, but there were people that were in the back that photobombed it, so we kind of skip traced. Oh, it's not paranoia, it is the public market. You're putting your information, even your pictures, on a public platform. In turn, you're almost giving up the rights to them. They've sat in front of Congress. Do you give your subscribers and people that are allowed to get on the website permission to let them give you permission to take the content? Well, we have it there a few times. So then we talk to the people that we know in the private sector, the ones that are deep in the private sector, and they'll definitely tell you, oh yeah, we don't have any social media. It's like, ooh, we know. We know. We know, we know. So, what do you do when you're in the public? Oh, I'm in the public. I'm still acquiring assets. I'm having a hard time getting out of public. I'm making my transition from out of the public. This is what we hear on a daily. I'm trying to get out of the public. Right. Well, if you're trying to get out of the public, do you have enough access into the private to hold you over? Well, I haven't mastered that yet. Okay. There are many that will say that to us. There, quite a few people are in the public. Most people are. And so, in turn, people are just having to acquire assets. But are you acquiring assets or are you acquiring liabilities? This is the question that we have for the listeners of the Vault. Are you a practitioner of asset acquisition or are you a practitioner of liability getting, spending money, letting lawyers talk to you as if you are in a personal position instead of being a trustee? Those are two different positions. What position are you talking to the lawyers in? What position are you talking to accountants in? Oh, where do I find those private attorneys and the private accounts? Well, we went to the high net worth investor environment. We put them on the public platform. What you don't know is what you don't know, and whether you know it or not, even having the lawyers on a public platform, if they're barred, they're limited. They got a professional code of ethics. You hear that? Lovely. When you meet these people in these environments, the private sector is the wealth sector. You hear that? Let's say it again for you so you can stop playing with yourself if you're playing with it. Oh, I'm building generational wealth. Generational wealth. Are you in the room with 10 million and above? Are you in the room with 50 million and above? Generational wealth. I'm building generational wealth. I'm acquiring real estate. We got like 5 properties. We got like 10 properties. We got 20 properties. We got a multi-unit. We got about 20 properties. We got about 50 properties. We got over 50 properties. We're in the public. We're looking to go private. How long is that process gonna take? We haven't heard that question in so long, almost because people might be scared to hear it. How long is it gonna take for you to transfer a position in your life? Transition yourself. Transition your family maybe into a private family estate position instead of a public family estate. So here we go. We got two types of people. Only two. The first one is they know enough to pull the trigger. They heard enough. It doesn't matter if they had previous knowledge or they didn't. They heard enough. Because the finding is reserved for the seeker. They were seeking private family estate, trusteeship. Then you got the next. Oh man, I know I need that. I heard about that. They actually reached out. So this is how you know they're the second. It ain't just some phantom second that never reaches out. There may be a third that never reach out, but it wasn't for them. But the second one that reached out, because you might be. Yeah, y'all want to hear the story of the first time of how we got it? We didn't even get halfway through it and we knew what time it was. See, the question comes down to, are you going to acquire assets in the private? Are you going to get a private education real quick? That's what it comes down to. Whether it varies across the board, whether you know it or not, across the board, the elites show you once they acquire the information, they make exponential leaps and bounds. It seems like they became a success overnight, but they didn't. They acquired specific pieces of information. See, everybody thinks they're created equal. Well, if we're created equal, we all don't have the same information, though. So some of us act on different pieces of information. You hear that? So once again, some of them, they reach out to the vault, they hear enough. And then others, it could be a reason not to do. For the ones that have reached out through the years and then pulled the trigger, appreciate you all for still tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate you for tuning in live, listening to replay. We got New York tuning in live, listening to replay. We got the Bronx tuning in live, listening to replay. Always appreciate all you all for tuning in live, listening to replay. The private side lifestyle. People say, "Oh man, do I have a birth certificate? Do I have a passport? Do I have a driver's license?" Let's go there. Well, usually in the private sector, they have private drivers. They have private transportation. So you technically would not be behind the wheel. But oh no, no. I still want to drive fast cars, Trust Christian in the vault. I still want to be behind the wheel because I want to be public, known as a professional driver behind a high-powered 2,000-pound plus vehicle that's fast. That can do damage. I don't think I need insurance on this, Trust Christian in the vault, because I don't know how to do security bonds on the private side, but I know you could do it because I heard you could do it because, right. It's about pulling a trigger on that information. If it's a bond, it's a security. You should be able to talk to a securities lawyer about it. But oh no, no, I wasn't given that education. Right. We've been talking about the securities lawyers for years. You shouldn't even be following anybody that's not talking about a securities lawyer. And then when we had the securities lawyer come on and say somebody that talks about selling securities, those are great people for investors, it was like, oh, struck us. Like, yes, that would be true. These people are actually sophisticated. They have capital. They know how to read contracts. They know how to deal with investors because they're actually selling. They can actually look over what's called a regulated security. What, you gonna get your birth certificate traded on the stock market now? It is traded on the stock market, Trust Christian Vault, on the black market. So how you gonna get black market funds? How you gonna get private funds? And then think about this. Is that a public process or a private process? It's a private process. So clearly, this isn't for everybody. Exactly. Oh, no, no. So you're going to be wealthy in private by yourself or a few. That's right. See, they don't want to hear what accompanies those processes. Oh, somebody told me they went to the private side, monetized their birth certificate, trust Christian the vault. Okay, but here we go. Nothing wrong with that. But when we say, are they working? This is the vault, ladies and gentlemen. We got trustees. When they come into the vault, they go private family foundation. They go perfect calendar. They love what they do. So they're still doing something. These people are traveling around with their families. These people are actually doing projects with their families for charity and otherwise. So how is that wrong? But somebody says, oh, I just want to go into the private and do nothing. That's not how it works. Oh man, I'm in the private side. What they want to keep going there with this discharge debt stuff? What happens when how are you acquiring debt when you're not in the public? Well, it's a private side. What they don't tell y'all is they still got public stuff going on. And that's what people don't want to hear is you getting your foot snared in the trap. It's snared. Oh man, I'm halfway in, halfway out. You know how many people keep coming on the line saying this? I'm halfway in, halfway out. How you gonna be? What are you talking about? Halfway in, halfway out. There is no halfway in, halfway out. You want to know who's halfway in, halfway out? The ones that didn't do it right. Find the examples. You want to go searching for failure? Go ahead. The ones that say, oh yeah, sue me, you know they're doing it right. You don't know how great it feels to walk around with no debt on your name. Do you? Do you know what it's like to walk around with no debt on your name? To be debt free for years? Knowing that you don't have assets in your name? And the hardest pill for you to swallow, maybe some people, maybe, man, what is it paying for? What is my time, energy, and labor as a trustee paying for? And then you say, wow, well, it is paying for something. But I'm not the beneficiary. You want to go there? Even in the public sector, who's the beneficiary of the public trust? The people. Who's the beneficiary of the public trust? The people. Right. They're the beneficiary, right? Are you the beneficiary from the public trust? Or are you building private equity? See, there is no private debt. It's private equity. Oh, they label it something. Because they in trust. When you go look up trust terms, they see equity, not just debt. There's a difference. Now we're selling stakes. Now we're selling shares. Now we're into what you call those certificates. Then we bring them on. We interview them for the REIT because everybody want to talk about real estate. We bust a bubble because most of these people out here, they're not even talking about a REIT. They know nothing about a REIT, but they want to sit out here and tell you they holding all these goddamn real estate properties. The best thing for you to do is to sue your favorite rapper's rapper. That's the best thing for you to do. The best thing for you to do is to sue the people over the internet that are telling you, oh yeah, I got these real estate properties in my name. I got them in an LLC. LLCs are still limited liability. Matter of fact, I'm not going to come after the guy. We're going to come after both, the husband and the wife. Because somebody tried to come on the line the other day and say, oh yeah, me and my wife don't file taxes together. Well, you think you're getting around being married still legally on paper? What does she have to do with it? That's what you would like to say. And what's love got to do with it? That's what you would like to think. These situations are what we call business situations. So when you're dealing in contract, do you restrict your signature? We sat here, we talked to trustees for weeks and weeks and all, well, for sure years now, and we talk about immediately within the first or second call. Make sure it's restricted signature. You think people in the private sector are signing unrestricted signatures like somebody in the public? Your public school teacher won't even tell you to sign something with a restricted signature. So hopefully it's your family. That's the private sector. Because the public sector not going to say, oh, well, are you doing restricted or not? What do you mean restricted? You think anybody of any real situation is restricted? We got to qualify what's going on here. These are simple things that would you say, oh, these are private lifestyle. Right. But then once again, we're not in the public. We're not going out. We're not taking all of these pictures. We're not posting all of these videos. And then here we go. They got this new term called name, image, and likeness. It's been around for a while because that has been the case. Once someone takes a print or an image, they have copyrights at this point. So now we got copyrights, we got trademarks, we got all these servicemen, we got all these different marks, right? But are you protecting your assets? Are you protecting property for the family? For the private family estate? You have gifts and talents. Are they protected? Oh man, I'm gonna keep building assets because that's what I was told in the public. Get down with the get down. I gotta go out, I gotta work hard because I gotta get some money coming in so I can provide a lifestyle. Then I'll think about protecting an asset. Isn't that what the public says? Then I'll think about protecting an asset after I go out and I gotta, I'm either gonna get an education, I gotta learn something, I gotta get a skill, I gotta get a trade, I gotta figure it out, I gotta, job, being an entrepreneur. But either way, I gotta get some money coming in and then I'm gonna protect it. Now, whether you all know it or not, everyone does not have that thought process. And there are people that are trained to have the complete opposite of that thought process. They have a very structured thought process. So they have been trained. And so in turn, if you walk into things with that, oh, it's just one way to do it, there's multiple ways to do it. Asset protection comes definitely before growth and acquisition. So this is where we are. If you're first gen, you see you're having to build things put together more structured than usual. And if not, then you're second gen, third gen. We did our best to interview third gen. You see what they're doing. They're out working. Everybody wants to talk about being these wealthy generational wealth babies. Oh, I'm gonna pass something along to my kids. I'm gonna make sure they're not working. I'm gonna make sure they're not. I'm gonna make sure they didn't have to do the same thing I had to do. Or then you get a lot of first gens that say, I'm not gonna give my kids any money. And then we ran into someone the other day. Uh, Family left about 800 million. Kids got 30 million each, and all of them ended up on the shakes, whether you know it or not. They were, of course. And this is the first question we asked. This is how you know we're savvy and we know the game. This is how you know. You want to know how your children don't fail? We could write a book right now. It's so easy. Here you go. Oh, this is so easy. Okay. People say, well, I want to pass along some money to my children if I were, because if not, I'm not going to leave them any money. So traditionally, you don't leave the money, specifically when we're talking about $30 million. We're going to use that as a hard number. So, of course, that's not a number you just leave an 18-year-old. That's not a number you leave a 16-year-old. That's just traditionally not a number of money that most people just leave to someone when they get of age. Oh, they just got it. Right. But that was the case. And all of these people ended up suicidal. Because that's how it goes. Because they didn't do what? The first question we asked them. Were they involved in, were they basically focused on building a business? If you have a business mindset, you have a fighting chance with $30 million. If you don't have a business mindset, it's easy. You're going to mess it over because you don't have a plan for the money. It's like a loan if you look at it that way. And even if you don't look at it as a loan, it's still a number that, once again, anybody could think like, oh, I got a few million to blow. Right. But a business person looks at that in a completely different manner. And we're talking about someone that's very disciplined towards business. So traditionally, you almost have a small fall off rate or failure rate if they're business oriented people. That's what the question was. Were they business oriented people? And of course, the three people were not. And that's why all of them were off the rocker. That's why. Because it's traditional that if you don't have a plan, oh, they easily could fall down a slumping. And it's actually good to hear now that we think about it. A lot of wealthy people say, I'm not just going to give my kids obviously hundreds of millions because I have billions, or, I'm not going to give them, millions just because I have, hundreds of millions. Why? Because whether you know it or not, yeah, somebody could go crazy off of that. And it's hard to hear that. Like, oh man, I wouldn't go crazy. Okay, it's not that you're going to go crazy, but people traditionally are going to blow off some of the money. And blowing off some of the money just means their bad habits are going to be exacerbated and probably for longer. So the old habits that they had, if they were in bad positions, are going to be exacerbated, even with more people now seeing that they have the money. So those situations are easy to call when they're not business oriented. If they're not business oriented, you can almost call it a ticking time bomb, whether you know it or not. So for most people, when they say, "Oh man, I don't want my kids to be business oriented," oh, whoa, 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 and you don't want to give money, that's fine. But if you want to give it to them, ooh, business orientation is what you see most people that actually build from first gen to second gen and second to third and beyond. They traditionally are business oriented people. They understand the systems that they're operating within. They understand different jurisdictions. You see people going to get higher levels of professional experience to deal in higher environments that involve you to have sophisticated licenses, sophisticated certifications that put you in a position that says that you qualify for this room, whether it's income level or whether it's passing a test. These are all things that put people in these rooms that we talk about this all the time. Even when we talk about the FDIC insurance money is a financial limiter if you don't have it. If you don't have that capital, and what qualifies beyond that, when you look at that term of them being called a qualified investor or sophisticated investor or accredited investor, that's an information gap. It's like graduating from college. You think you made it because you graduated from college? No, you didn't make it when you didn't become accredited investor. That's when you know you can live on your own. But then when we got so many people coming here and there, oh, I want to be in the private side. Are you trading from a private perspective? We got to ask these questions. Are you willing for all the public assets that you're building right now to be seized? That's the question. Are you okay with the public assets you have right now being seized? Oh man, I got canceled and they froze my bank account. Right. Did you hear that? They froze your bank account, not the family estate bank account. There's a difference. But when you're in the public, you do get canceled. And when you're in the public, that's the stuff they do, freeze personal bank accounts. But when you're not personal and it's business, it's a different story. Sure, there's limited situations, limited liability situations. You all are aware when you listen to these things, and that's perfectly fine. But it goes beyond that because then there's the public and then there's the private. But oh, I want to be private, but I don't think I need to do that fast. Uh-oh. Okay, we told y'all. It's two different types of people. It's ones that hear enough and ones that they come up with a reason. But they have public assets that can be freezed in public trust. They even ask us when they come on the line. It's actually one of the questions that we could really push harder, but it's okay because once you ask the question and we answer it, it's on you. So once again, they say, well, hey, even though it's in the public trust, am I protected? How? It's in the public trust. Who created the public rules? Right. That's what we saying. But oh no no, trust Christian in the vault. I gotta figure it out. We appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen to replay. Always appreciate everybody for tuning in live, listen to replay. Private side lifestyle. So what are you saying? Don't get a passport or a driver's license or whatever. It's once again, are you restricted? We rare. It seems like the information has fallen off, which is good. A lot of the bad information should fall off, which is good. But then there's elements that it's like, man, that was actually one element of it was actually a good thing. And then you see so many people they're not. It's either your people aren't getting smarter, or are they studying the law, the jurisdictions that they're in. People come on the line all the time. Oh, trust Christian vote. I listen to the episodes. I remember you said you was sleeping in the library. Okay, people haven't even made it to the library yet. The county library, ladies and gentlemen, is the county. Everywhere they're administering law, they actually have to provide a library that they're administering law as a part of the system. They can't administer law without having a place for someone such as yourself, a lay, if you are a lay. If you're a layman and you gotta go prepare for your case, we see people in the court in the library all the time, the law library all the time. That they definitely aren't a lawyer. They over there trying to prepare a case. That's what they doing. Oh, they preparing that case. They doing something, but they're not a lawyer, and they're at the law library. Oh man, I don't know if I want to go there. I got a lot of things going on. The seasons and stuff. It's the games. It's playoffs. It's something. Cookout, summertime, hot. Vacation. Something. Okay. What makes you think any elite didn't spend a few weekends in the law library? We already understand that's a hard word to grasp. Oh, you an elite? Yeah, you're an elite. You studied the law. Why are all the politicians or most of them lawyers? Oh, it's a coinky dink. It's a coincidence. I don't know. That kind of is a coincidence. I don't know. Well, the private side lifestyle, it's definitely a financial separator. Easily could see that based off the FDIC information. Just a lot of different things can separate you. You spend less time in the public. The public is basically a liability, whether you know it or not. People in the private are making sure that their lifestyles are insulated. So when we talk about private drivers, private transportation, you become adept to pretty much trying to put private in front of everything that you do. And in turn, that does make everything look differently, the way that you operate. Um, and a lot of people just aren't prepared for that. That's just being honest with you guys. A lot of people reach out to the vault. We see it year after year, time after time. And, you say, well, are these people, you know, are these people, pretty much trying to go private? And they're not. They say they are. They think they are. And then they find out, man, I got to change my speech. We talk about this all the time. You don't know what you don't know. We might as well make an affirmation for you to know that it's not your trust. We're going to say this to the trustees. We're going to say this to the public. Because that's like saying you got a social security number. If you have a social security number, it's like saying I have a social liability number. It means when I get ready to get old, they've moved the age up now to even older in the public. So once I get older, I have some insurance, or if something happens to me, I have some insurance fund. Yeah, because you didn't get wealthy. Because when you're wealthy, you don't qualify anymore. You don't qualify anymore. Oh man, I make too much money for Social Security. You know how many people we've heard say that in our lives? Have you heard anybody in your life say that? You can make too much money for Social Security to where if you make too much money, you can't collect Social Security. After you 60 something, you put in your whole life. So what they gonna do with the money now? They don't tell you that story, do they? Or are you gonna be wealthy to even find out? Well, It's a lot of mental processes to overcome more than it is physical. Oh man, I want the money. Yeah, we would like to think, oh yeah, I get the money overnight. Yeah, and then what do you, if you received, if you had a lottery ticket, money coming to you right now, in what structure are you going to receive it? Oh man, you going to let the lawyer convince you it's got to come to you in your name, right? Right. I don't know how to tell them to assign it or title it to anything. But you gonna get a mortgage title, right? You gonna get a mortgage title. Don't you have to go through a title clearing for a mortgage? Yes. But oh no, no, hey man, I wasn't too educated in this commerce stuff. The commerce is different. Is it personal or is it business? Right. Is it personal or is it private? Oh, I found out how to do it with my family. I created my family trust. Oh, here we go. Oh, they came on the line, a few of them. I created my family trust and I just need to train it. I already got a trust. Bam, we caught him saying it again. I already got a trust for my family, so we good. I just need to train it. Right, well, where'd you get the contract from? I created it. Oh, okay. So is it public or is it private? We could ask a bunch more questions and we let them tell on themselves. We tell the trustees all the time, oh no, no, trust Christian, you always cutting us off because we'll just be saying my. Why does he sound like that? Why he say it like that? Well, there's a few things in life that you want to get right. There's a few things in life that you got to do right, and this is one of them. And so it involves change. And when it comes down to it, so many people say, oh man, once again, I want to be a part of the private lifestyle. Well, there's you're not doing the things you're doing in the public. Many things. Yeah, oh man, we already talked about social media. We talked about, whether it's the licenses and the this and the that. It's called living through a business. Figuring it out. Oh man, that's a hard thing, right? Why? Because you ain't been taught to think. Here we go. Haven't you been taught to think? No, people have been programmed to recall information and press a button and get up at the same time every day because they don't have the discipline, so they need an alarm clock. You got to think in a private sector for yourself, for your family. You know how many people we say, oh, you ask them about the news, they say, oh, I listen to the news, but I don't take all of its advice. Okay, fine. So what information are you gathering to better yourself? What information? Where are your sources? We tell of our sources at the vault. We say go to private wealth conferences. Some people reach out to us from the vault and they say, oh yeah, I go to those, or we meet people there. They have many different names for themselves, just know that. In the private sector, they don't call themselves just private equity. Definitely don't start with the private equity. You might not have. We okay with sharing, but these guys want more than what you know. Promise you that every time. Just think of them always taking a lion's share, whether you know it or not. And then private equity is still, even if private equity comes in and takes a small percentage. Now, and when we say small, we're talking like a 30 point. So let's just say they come in and they take 30% of the company. They might still say, well, we're going to put two people on the board. So they got control still of having the ability to vote you off of the company. These are small things that we know that, when you get involved with these people, it's good. It's a lot of money out there in private equity. We're definitely not saying that. It's just when you get out there, just be prepared what you're giving up for what you're getting. A lot of people want money. That's great. You should get the money. They'll actually give you the money, but they want position because they want to make sure it doesn't fail. And they know that if it won't fail if they put people on the board and if they take enough share of the company to always vote you out. That's how they look at it in private equity. So um, that's how it looks even in the private sector. There's sharks over there. It's sharks. We see it all the time. It's okay though. Whether you know it or not, in the private sector, you create. Do you hear that? In the private sector, not only do you think, you create. Oh no, no. Trust Christian Vault. I gotta create something. I gotta create an asset before I protect it. Or do I protect it, then I create it? You protect it, then you create it. And that's a fact. See, that's a hard reality when you've been taught the reverse. That's like saying you learn how to walk before you crawl. You got to know how to get up and crawl. If you need to crawl before you walk. But oh no, no, I'm going to try to walk before I crawl. And that's fair. People end up walking very quickly because they want to walk instead of crawl. So the few steps that you got to take to protect an asset. The family asset's at that. It's not your asset now. It's not your gift. And you're just protecting it for the family, not for yourself. But this whole thought process on the opposite end of the spectrum, thinking you go, oh, I'm gonna be private and be broke. It's like a cold. It's like a disease. It don't work. It ain't true. It ain't real. It doesn't work that way. You're not in the private sector broke. We want to make this very clear right now. So for all you out there, oh man, I want to find out about this person and if they're private. I want to know how they're living. I want to know if they're really a private person. This person told me they were private. Are they broke? Then that's how you know they ain't private. You can't be private and broke. It's private and wealthy. The public is government funds and public charity and welfare, debt, talking about some wealth. You're not broke in the private. So once you see this youngsters out there, still young, bunch of young ones coming up, contacting the vault for years now. Oh man, Trust Christian Vault. I was linked up with the Moors. I was linked up with this group, and they wasn't getting no money. Exactly. It wasn't getting no money. Or people find out the shady side of business and then it's like, oh yeah, that looks ugly. Right. So are you dealing with people in trust so you don't get yourself gaffed, as they say? Are you protecting the family assets so you don't keep going through, oh, I've been burned in business before. Here we go. Let's go there. I've been burned in business before. Yeah, you can eliminate that when you trust Christian enough to control everything. Appreciate you for tuning in live, listen, replay. Always appreciate everybody that tunes in live, listen, replay. This is the Vault, episode 473, Private Side Lifestyle. Feel free to reach out, Christian at trustchristian.com for Trustee Training. Otherwise, look forward to hearing from you. Peace.